Welcome back. Yo, my connection today is playing games. But let's try this again. Take two. Let's try this again. Let's try. Thank you so much for your patience, guys. I don't know what's happening to my connection today. Usually, hello. I'm
Yeah,
sorry about that.
that's
I don't know what happened. Usually, I don't have these issues.
yeah. So I guess we lost most of our viewers.
Yes.
Let me. I don't know how. Let's see. Is it the same link?
I think it becomes a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's
Let me just copy it. Okay.
no problem. Welcome back, guys. We got cut off there when we were already deep into the conversation. I'm using a different device. I'm suspecting that's the issue. Hopefully, we'll get through it.
Okay. So I think maybe we might be able to get. Okay. We have a few viewers.
All right. Welcome back, guys. Sorry about the disconnection, but we are back and we're talking about how you people that are gonna watch the video are gonna miss the first part, but that's fine. I was just asking about how a young African person can look out for those opportunities to be able to take the path that you took.
Okay, so for you to understand the path that I took for the benefit of our listeners, right? I think I need to explain who a startup ecosystem builder actually
Yes.
is. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurship, we have three key branches. We have the government and its stakeholders, that's the policy formulators. Government make laws and set up infrastructures for you to use. Then we have the entrepreneurs themselves, which are the people on this call, including you yourself and their
Mm.
customers. Then we have ecosystem builders. So ecosystem builders are the people who give you access to funding, access to grants, training, and all the skills that you need to excel in your entrepreneurial journey. For you to become an ecosystem builder, you first of all must have been an entrepreneur,
Mm.
which brings me to at what point did I get into climate action, right? So, like I mentioned, growing up, I had always wanted to be a medical doctor or a lawyer and so on and so forth. I never got the chance to study medicine due to one or two issues, but I still pursued my health tech initiatives. One thing that I started realizing was any opportunity you go for, it's like climate change is always winning. I kept wondering, what's the fuss about this climate change things? Don't we have more pressing, you get me,
Mm.
issues? So at that point, I had a static mind, which is something that I believe most young entrepreneurs would be facing as they've joined this call, having a static mind that, okay, maybe I want to do fashion, therefore I'll do it the traditional way. So for you to get into mind pathway, you need to fine tune your mindset. You need to redesign how you see things. You need to change your focal point. Once you do that, you'll be able to enter into the pathway that I have entered, which involves climate action. So, yes, I started as health, but I then integrated climate change into the health
Mm.
sector. When I started doing ecosystem building, that's when I left the health sector. I started trying my best to integrate multiple SDGs, including climate change, in all entrepreneurs'
Mm.
endeavors.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's very fascinating. So, with how long were you in business before you then ventured into the ecosystem thing? Because I'm just thinking, let's say someone is listening to you, like, oh, this is what I really
Yeah.
want to do, but how much business experience do I need before I get to be an ecosystem builder?
Okay, for me, I had just 2 years, but you need more than that. But I had 2 years and I was good to go.
So, you were just moving, you had a goal and you were just chasing it.
Yes, I, I was one of those people, like I said, once I was able to change my mindset,
Hmm.
I felt like, let me just take the risk. I'm not someone who really believes that 5 years, 10 years experience is actually relevant, because you would agree that the young people on this call tend to have certain skills and can excel way more than people who have those number of years of experience.
And I think the whole years of experience thing holds Africans back. Because when
In-
you look at jobs or job posts and then they'll write 5, 10 years experience. But then you look at international work. They don't even write your degree. They just want to see your skill. What can you do? Whether it's 1 year,
Exactly.
it's 2 years. I think that's where Africans will really have to change our mentality. Just because there's experience there, chances are the skill might actually not be there, because we have a thing
Indeed.
of keeping people in organizations because they have served for a long time.
Yes.
So let's get into curl dog innovations.
Yes.
What are the when we're now connected to climate action? Let's say I come to you and I say, oh, I have this idea. Where do I start?
Okay. So when you have an idea, right, the first thing that tends to come into your mind is that, okay, maybe I'm the only person who has this idea, or simply because you have a passion for an idea, it is assumed that it's going to actually work, whether in climate change
Hmm.
whatsoever. So the first point that we do is what we call the design thinking stage, right? So when you come with me with your idea, it is my duty as an innovation consultant to help you to check how feasible this idea is. Do we have enough people who are going to patronize this initiative that you are coming up with? It can be sustainable fashion. Yes, you have a nice idea perhaps for a brand.
Hmm.
Do we have enough people who are actually going to patronize your product in Africa? Maybe not Africa, but is it in the diaspora? If it is, how rest assured are we that what you are trying to do in the long run is even going to contribute to societal impact? Which brings to me to what we call the business model canvas. This is something a lot of people don't have any idea about. So when you come to me with your climate initiative or idea whatsoever, our first step is to take it through a design thinking process. Then we start looking at the business model canvas, where we try to look at how best can we generate revenue from this. Most people tend to think, I'm sure for most of our listeners and viewers who will be watching this after the recording is posted, most people tend to think that, oh, I'm coming to do this for passion, so I'm not going to charge money. The question therefore becomes, this your climate change idea that you have, how are you going to make money out of it? If it is not for profit, how are you going to get money to keep it sustainable?
Hmm.
It is the duty of an ecosystem builder to help you to navigate these various turmoils, or let's say hurdles.
Oh wow. That's very fascinating. I hadn't thought of, I don't even know what the business model canvas is. I'm gonna definitely go and do research, because I
Yeah.
personally, I could act when you sent me the info of what you do. I actually have a lot of ideas, but then I'm like, will I make money? I'm actually not one of those people that will go into it for passion. Yes, I do have the passion, but I also want to be able to make a living out of it. So
Indeed.
let's what when they come to you, what mandatory, I know you are a mentor. I was actually impressed when I was looking at your past interviews and your LinkedIn. You are open to volunteering. You are so open to giving out to young people. So is
Yes.
there a monetary, I'm sure there is, but at what stage when they approach CalDoc Global
Okay.
Innovations?
Yes. So with Keldor Global Innovations, right, we have various revenue generation strategies. Okay. One is what we call the venture studio model. So how it works is this. If you come to us with your climate change idea whatsoever, sustainable fashion, be it for profit or not for profit,
Mm.
we can say that, okay, we are going to mentor you and help you develop all the business plan, paperwork, pitch decks, training, connect you to opportunities for free. However, if we help you to secure a grant, you then give us a certain commission of it, not for us to treat as some form of for profit, but to also go back into helping younger people just like yourself. Again, we source for funding from foundations from Germany and Canada, where we take these funds and then pump it into helping initiatives that tend to help the youth. Then we also have certain people who can actually pay us. Sometimes you may think that people don't have the money to pay, but you'll be amazed. Certain people actually have the money to pay. So these are some of the revenue generation strategies that we use, especially when it comes to climate action initiatives.
And that is so true. Most times a person can say, "Oh, I don't have money," until when someone really wants something, people make a way. Welcome, guys. If anyone has a question, please pop it into the Q&A. Let's see what the comments are saying. Hello, Mark. Someone said insightful. Some of these social media names. But welcome, everyone. If you have any question for our guest, please copy it in the chat box. What would you say is the most fulfilling thing about the work that you do?
Well, I would say, first of all, putting smiles on the faces of people, okay?
Hmm.
Being hope, I wouldn't say for the hopeless, but at least being hope for someone who has actually felt like, okay, I can never achieve anything. I have a very low self-esteem and so on and so forth. So for me, my most achieving impact is seeing a change in the lives of certain people. Okay. So in December, I would say December, I was actually touched and emotional when three of our key mentees, right, actually did videos and sent in like paragraphs. You see those kind of paragraph messages that people send on WhatsApp, telling us about how they never believed they could even stand on stages. They never believed they could even pitch. Today, they at an age of 17 to 18, they find
Wow.
themselves reaching their goals. In yes, at that tender age. So that's one of the most fulfilling. Aside that, we've had some good number of awards, being a judged youth startup ecosystem builder, like you said. But in summary, my most fulfilling um, situation, or my most fulfilling scene in my life is seeing my work put smiles on the lives of people.
Hmm. I can imagine that must be fulfilling work. Now, what influences the age group? Because you did say you work with young people under 30. So what
Yes.
criteria is used and what influence the age group? Because I was like, oh my goodness, I need to make it quick because I'm running out of running out of time.
Yeah. Okay. So you first of all need to understand where the demand is. When you look at the global north,
Hmm.
right, we have more billionaires being under 30.
That's so true.
Not because of the ideas they have or the businesses they do, but you would realize that there is that generational um, strategy being put in place by their parents or grandparents to ensure that these enterprises tend to continue in the long run.
Hmm.
In Africa, we don't have that. We have majority of our entrepreneurs beginning their entrepreneurial journey or even climate action journey. Let's not
Hmm.
limit it at all. We have these people beginning these things at age 35, right? So I said, no, let us start seeding the spirit of SDG initiative, ESG, and entrepreneurship in the young ones. And our academic curricula in universities don't, you would agree, don't tend to have some of these innovation and SDG oriented
Hmm.
trainings. So this is one thing that has always influenced our selection of ages. We tend to do persons who are also age 40 and beyond. No two ways about that. But one of our major focus is the youth, because when you are able to train the youth, you are going to likely have an Africa which can rival the global north.
Hmm. Yeah, now I'm not offended anymore. I understand now. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, let's go to the word innovation. I think when I was actually looking, doing research and everything, my assumption, I'm sure I'm not the only one. When I hear the word innovation, I am thinking technology. But when you started actually mentioning what you do, there was no mention of technology at all. So let's just get into that
Mhm.
word. We assume it's simple, we assume everybody knows it, but what really is innovation?
Thank you very much for that question. And this is very wonderful. So I'll tackle it in two ways, both for what is innovation and then when it comes to climate action, all right? Climate innovation. So whenever you hear the word innovation, it is simply you coming up with something new to solve a problem or making use of already existing solutions in a different way to solve a problem. it doesn't need technology. Innovation is not limited to technology at all.
Mm.
If you want to get this in the most simplest way, take a straw. Initially, people were drinking from glass bottles, which tend to have rusts at the tip. When that was happening, we were having health issues. Someone came up with something called straw. So the straw is something new that is going to solve a problem. That is called innovation, right? Again, when you would also agree that in our part of the world, when people are giving you straws at, let's say, bars or restaurants, they tend to give it to you in bulk for you to pick with your hand manually. These tend to give other health issues. So someone says, okay, there is already a straw existing. Let me come up with a paper coating so that it will protect the health of other people. So one, he didn't have to make a new straw. He simply had to make something that will protect an already existing innovation, which is a straw. This is also termed innovation. So I want everybody on this call and listening to understand that no matter your idea, be it in climate action, be it
Today is trying me.
we lost you for a second.
Yeah, I'm back, hopefully. Whew.
Did you get that?
So you I think you were just ending the straws part.
Yes, in summary, I'm sure our listeners heard it. All I was trying to say was, regardless of your idea in climate change, health, whatsoever, it can be fast fashion, it can be earring, it can be beads, maybe recycling glass bottles to make beads, recycling plastic to make bags. All these things are termed innovation because what they are making use of new means to achieve a stated goal, or they are leveraging on already existing infrastructures or initiatives to achieve a certain goal in society. That is innovation. So innovation, it doesn't need to be technology at all.
I think we run
Yes.
away from some of these terms because we assume everything is so big and it's everything is technology this, technology that. So thank you for clarifying that. Someone here asked a question. Let me just see. Let me just how do you tackle the challenges in your entrepreneurial career?
As in me or as in an advice question? Maybe if you can clarify that for me.
Okay, they didn't mention, but let's look at from an advice. Let's say you
Advice.
are coaching someone and then they come to you and they're having those challenges.
Challenges. Okay, so first of all, like I always say, you first of all need to understand the challenge. Why is what it is what it is, right? So is it the challenge a matter of finance? If it is a matter of finance, then let's look at how do you intend to generate revenue? Obviously, it's going to be about funding and finance, right? If you have an enterprise, whether in sustainable fashion, climate action, health, fintech, whatsoever, when you're having financial challenges, go back to the drawing board and check. Do I have certain skills or certain things I'm doing for free that perhaps I could monetize? Two, am I applying for the right opportunities? How many people know about applying for grants? How many people know about applying for fellowships? How do they source for these things? These are certain things that I would always urge someone to look out for when they are looking at financial challenges in their enterprises. Two, looking at the legal framework, is your enterprise registered? If it is registered, what is the form of registration? Is it a sole proprietorship or limited liability? If your enterprise is facing financial challenges in any SDG field and you want to make more money, you have to look at becoming a limited liability. This is something that we see. Then also, there's also the mental health aspect of entrepreneurship that, okay, I've gotten to a point where I want to give up. I'm into beads production, I'm into sustainable fashion production. People are not buying my products. I feel like giving up. This is a mental health issue. This can also be a product market fit issue. If it is a mental health issue, one thing I would always say is who do you surround yourself with? You need to surround yourself with people who would at least be able to inspire you and tell you that, oh, don't worry, everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be. You need to have the right network and friendship around you to tackle the mental health aspect of your entrepreneurial challenges. The next aspect that you may be facing challenges, what if your sustainable fashion product or agri product or anything that you are doing in the SDGs, be it climate change or whatsoever, it's not really generating revenue or it's not getting enough customers? It means perhaps your target market is wrong. What do I mean by that? Perhaps you are producing fashionable, sustainable fashion products, yet the price you are selling it for, the community you live in cannot actually purchase it. What I would then advise you to do is leverage on collaborations and partnerships. It can be at exhibitions, it can be at exports. Have you even thought of having focal points in other countries? Also, another thing that you'll be facing in terms of challenges when it comes to your entrepreneurship, which I'm sure the questioner, the person asking the question is looking at is, okay, what if I do everything right, but things just don't move according to plan? That brings me to the point of what we call ESG. Now we have something called ESG, which is going to help you to navigate your entrepreneurial journey. E stands for environment, which is something that Kundi is actually championing. You have to try your best to ensure that your enterprise tackles some environmental issues or climate change issues. S stands for social. If you feel like your business is not thriving or you're having challenges in your entrepreneurship, try your best to add a little bit social impact in your initial interventions. And then G stands for governance. These days, we are looking out for ensuring that people meet certain legal frameworks to get access to funding, like I mentioned. So, what is the structures in place for your enterprise? Sometimes you are facing the challenge because you are the only one doing the business. You are a one-man business. These things could be certain things affecting you. So that's my advice in summary.
That's a mouthful. I hope our guests are taking notes. I'll definitely watch this over again. And how would you, someone asked, how would you define impact? I think I think a lot about, especially now I'm in a reflecting mode where I think I want to do important work, I want to make an impact, but what really is impact in your words?
Okay. Impact with respect to your enterprises or in your entrepreneurial journey, okay, first of all, doesn't need to be big. Impact can be positive, impact can be negative. The choice is yours. So, what therefore is an impact is how have you contributed to the change of something? In simple terms, you may be in a community where plastic waste is a big deal. You may be able to run a simple advocacy, as simple as possible, with no funding. Once there is a change in a behavioral change on the part you spoke to, impact is recorded. Again, sometimes people tend to think that impact has to be in the thousands, 2000s, or you must have pictures and so on and so forth. No, even having people viewing your post going viral, your reels educating people on maybe climate action, agri-tech, or anything, it's going viral. It's also impact because it is assumed that if your Instagram reel got about 10,000 views, it means what? You've been able to impact 10,000 people. So you need to first of all rethink that or change your mindset that impact doesn't need to be big. It can be the little things that you do.
You really just spoke to me there because sometimes I just sit down and I'm like, oh, I don't have money to start this big NGO.
Indeed.
But we overthink it because impact you can
Yeah.
really affect your neighbor literally or the people in your community without going out there. And
Indeed.
how does let me say what are the challenges that are unique to climate action that affect Africa as opposed to the rest of the world?
Okay.
That you have
So if I think the impact of climate
mm,
action on the lives of people.
definitely.
Y- Yes. So climate action actually impacts Africans the most. So people tend to always look at the global warming aspect and perhaps sometimes flooding. That's not true. So when it comes to the impact of climate action, Okay, we have various segments. We have the vulnerable people. When we say vulnerable, we are looking at persons living with disabilities or persons who are below a certain age, children, maternal mothers. These people are noted to be vulnerable.
Mm.
We are looking at farmers, agri-produce. Climate change tends to impact agri-yields. How does this happen? Let's start from a right hierarchy. When it comes to health, due to climate change, we are having high influx of mosquitoes and vector-borne diseases in our communities, including dengue fever. This is climate change, climate action impacting you. So if you have a poor health, obviously you can't work. Persons living with chronic conditions or disabilities, they are more vulnerable to climate change with respect to the heat waves. It's affecting them. Climate change, you realize that these days relationships, people are breaking up in their relationships. The little thing, ladies are annoyed and they are breaking up. Don't be deceived. Climate action tend to indirectly cause this because climate change through higher temperatures gives you anxiety and depressions, which tend to affect you in Africa too. Let's come to the business aspect, agribusiness. These days we have rains in January, or should I say we have rains in dry seasons, and then we have heat in wet seasons. These things tend to affect agro yields, which is affecting um, food security.
Mm.
This is an impact that we are facing when it comes to climate action. Flooding, because people tend to think that, oh, pollution of the environment is what actually causes flooding. Yes, it contributes, but having excessive rainfall due to climate action tend to also contribute to even flooding, because initially maybe if we're having this volume of rainfall, now we are having excessive ones. These are some of the key ways climate action is affecting Africans. When you go to the global north, it is not same. But in Africa, we have issues with food security, we have health issues, mental health, and so on and so forth. We also have issues with respect to flooding, damages to our cities, and so on and so forth. So Africa is actually vulnerable to climate action more than we think.
That is so true. And I think I actually read a statement that was saying that most people are so disconnected to that topic of climate action because we are thinking these big words, global warming and all these things, but in our daily lives we are literally being affected by it. So that
Yeah.
is, but that was funny, that relationship one.
Oh, yes. There are certain things that people don't really know. Like climate action can actually affect your mental health. So you realize people are getting more depressed,
Mm.
anxieties, depression. All these things are as a result of climate change, or climate change increases your susceptibility to some of these issues.
I think it sucks that it's there are so many issues that are coming because of climate change. But when I was just hearing you speak, I actually realized there is so much opportunity to make a change. Whatever skill you have in terms of mental health, there are so many ways one can use their skills to actually make an impact in whatever small way or big way. Let's get
Indeed.
into the success stories that you have seen with your organization regarding to climate action.
Okay, so with respect to success stories, we've been able to, like I mentioned, we've been able to roll out in partnership with organizations in Rwanda, Digital Health Africa, where we trained about 30 young people to develop climate innovation, right? We call it the Chibe project. So we had people developing apps that help people combat malaria. We had people have developing apps that can help predict flooding in certain communities. We had people developing certain apps that was going to help in eco cooling. When you come to Ghana, for example, we've been able to impact the lives of someone who was doing beads. She was into the sustainable fashion industry. We've been able to guide her gradually to implement innovative initiatives like what we call the hobby to cash, which she's about to
Mm.
run. So what it simply does is she's able to use hobbies, which is into bead production and bag making, to help tackle climate action and at the same time economic empowerment. This has been done. We've been able to have people develop innovations such as citrus share.
Mm.
What it simply means is she's able to use waste citrus, peels of citrus fruits, mix it with shea butter to help you use it as an mosquito repellent in local communities that people cannot actually buy expensive repellents. We've been able to help people come up with apps that are going to help. If you have diabetes, it helps you to be able to manage the impact or adapt to climate issues with respect to your health conditions. These are Delta of Africa. When you go to Germany too, we've made a significant impact where through our partnership with Star Africa Germany, we had three key people getting into the German Exit Fund. One was in developing something in what we call, is it hydroponics? Is it hydroponics? Yes. So she's able to plant trees without necessarily having enough soil. We've also had someone trying to make use of cartoons to champion climate adaptation and so on and so forth. So these are some of the success stories. Some have secured funding, some are also in the pipeline to secure funding. Personally, I also won about around $1,000 from the Queen's University last year for my climate health intersecting digital health innovation. So these are some of the things that we've been doing, just to name a few.
Africans are doing big things, and I feel like we don't hear enough about these
Yes,
things.
yes,
Especially that I'm still trying
yes,
to process that citro shea. How on earth does someone think, you know what, I could use these pills with shea
yes.
butter, and then next thing, wow, I'm
So, 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 so the genesis of that idea was very simple. In our part of the
yeah.
world, we are able to repel mosquitoes by burning peels of oranges
Also, it's
when
something
we
we
were all.
already do. Okay.
No, so that brings it to the point of innovation.
Mm.
Initially, people burn the peels of citrus to suck mosquito to repel mosquitoes, right? Shea butter is something that we have locally available and quite
Mm.
affordable. So she's able to process it. I can't share for the purpose of IP, I can't share how she's able to do it, but she's able to process these waste peels, mix it with shea butter into a formula. And once you use it, you have your own body cream, which is gentle on your skin and at the same time repels mosquitoes. So it's called citrus shea. I don't know if she's on this call though. I mean,
If you're here, Miss Citro Shea, please say hi.
uh,
That is
I'm sure she
incredible.
joined the earlier. She joined the earlier
The earlier
link,
one.
and
Oh man. Hopefully I can have her here in the near future. Um, let's just talk about the climate health integration.
yeah.
I just want to know more about that intersection between climate and health and that the solution that you mentioned.
Okay. So like I mentioned, right? Due to climate change, we have high influx of vector-borne diseases, including malaria, dengue fever, and so on and so forth.
Mm,
Notwithstanding that, we also have certain people we call vulnerable groups. These include babies, pregnant women, persons living with chronic conditions.
mm,
Now, what happens is these people have compromised immune systems. Because their immune systems are compromised, they tend to have issues with, they are vulnerable to the impact of climate change. Now, that's the climate aspect. Secondly, our health infrastructure in Africa or health delivery systems, you would know that it's never the best, right? So basically, we already have an existing problem, and climate change is also coming to make this worse.
mm,
For example, when we have flooding, how many people will be able to go to their hospitals? How many people will be able to get climate-oriented knowledge? How many people will be able to even adapt? We have what we call climate adaptation. How many people will be able to do it? So what climate health intersecting with digital health innovation seeks to do is we are trying to make use of simple advocacy tools through social media, just like what you're doing,
mm,
TikTok and so on and so forth, to help people to know how to adapt to climate change. So for example, like I mentioned, how many people know that climate change is actually causing them to be developing anxieties and depressions and so on and so forth these days? Many people don't know, yet social media is there.
mm.
So we are using advocacy channels like social media to be able to champion the knowledge, increasing the knowledge of climate health.
Hmm.
That's basically what we are
And
trying
social
to do. Yeah.
media is where literally every young person is. So it's getting them where they
Indeed.
are. I think that's an incredible idea. So how do you see the future of climate entrepreneurship evolving in Africa?
I would say it's actually evolving, first of all, because there is a high level of grants available
Mm,
for the industry, right? But I find the sustainable fashion industry quite evolving, which is why I really like the intervention that you're actually um, putting up. So when it comes to Africa, I find climate action gaining more traction. We are going to have more unicorns being developed. We are going to have higher contributions with respect to the youth. Now, when it comes to SDG focus, one thing that I think is also going to be booming is the TVET industry. Like I mentioned, sustainable fashion. Also, we have the fintech industry going to really actually gain more climate attention. What do I mean by that? We have something we call climate financing. How do I finance my climate interventions? How do I finance my sustainable fashion initiatives? Waste. You can simply monetize waste. It is something that I'm building in Ghana, where people get to pay for their health bills with their waste. So you would realize that this is something that gradually people are going to look out for, because we can't always rely on foreign aid. Take what happened with USAID, for example. It means all climate interventions would come to a halt. So this is what I see for Africa.
Speaking of Africa, I think someone asked, have you worked with other young people outside of Ghana? I can imagine the 200 um, businesses
Yes.
you have mentored. I'm sure some of
Yes.
them are outside of Ghana.
Yes, yes. Majority of my impact is actually outside Ghana. So I've mentored people in Rwanda, Kenya, Burundi, Sierra Leone, um, Nigeria in particular. To have done a lot of good work there. I've done some few things in the Gambia and so on and so forth. But I think one thing that would make people understand how I was able to do this is I was able to leverage partnerships. So in these various countries, I have innovation hubs that I'm very close to. So we organize so many interventions together, sometimes virtually, and we've been able to do that. So majority of my impact is not in Ghana, actually, it's in Kenya, Rwanda, and even South Africa. So Hub for Africa, for example, was a South African initiative funded by the Bavarian government. Yeah.
Impressive. My my next question was actually on collaboration and partnerships, and you've just mentioned it. And I just recalled when I was also talking to Samuel, he also emphasized collaboration and partnerships. And I see people that are collaborating are doing so well. And I think as Africans, we just need to see the power of collaboration, because most times we want to do things in our own little corner and feel like, I think we might just have a scarcity mindset to say that, oh, if I do well, or if this person does well, then I can't do well, when all of us can. There is enough room for everybody. So
Mm.
what message would you have for let's say a young African business owner or someone who has an idea? How can they prepare and get the most of working, let's say, with an organization like yours?
Okay, so first of all, on the first spot, you need a mentor or a coach, right? That is one advice, the first advice I can give. Then we have three key things that you would need, especially those who want to go into climate action. Okay, is you need to first of all identify that we have something we call incubators. When you have an idea, it is best to go through what we call incubators, because after you go through 6 7 months period, you get some good funding to implement your enterprises. If you are someone who already have maybe your prototype and MVP and you have some paying customers, I would urge you to go into what we call accelerators. So accelerators tend to use some 2 months, 3 months to be able to train you, to help you implement your climate change initiative to achieve product market fit and to scale up. They also tend to give funding. Then if you are someone who you already having good paying customers, just like people like Samuel already have, these are people that are always advised that yes, when you have your existing business, you can always have new ideas, new products, new fashionable things coming in. It is advisable to consider at that stage what we call equity or debt financing. What do I mean by that? If your business is already having good customers and campaign and the publicity is very good, consider having shareholders. So you can use that money you raise from equity fundraising to fund your operational expenses. That's paying employees, paying for transportation, production, and so on and so forth. If you are into something that you need to procure, maybe a machine, which you would agree that the sustainable fashion industry, you need machines to be able to produce, then you can consider what we call debt financing or asset financing, where a bank gives you these machineries and you pay for them in little bits. This advice is different from what people were expecting. People were hoping for me to tell them that, oh, have faith, have passion, don't give up. Yes, I know you will not give up, but my interest is you establishing sustainable, climate conscious businesses, what we call ecopreneurship. At the idea stage, go through incubations. If you are the commercialization stage, go through accelerators. If you are the growth stage or scaling up stage, make use of equity or debt financing. And across all these things that you do, don't forget the governance structure you put in place for your enterprises. Register your initiative, register your business, even if it is a not-for-profit, register it, because no one is going to give you $10,000 if you just have an idea. It doesn't work that way.
That is
Yes.
so true. The amount of notes I have written, oh my goodness. Are there, I don't know, this might sound like a silly question. Are there incubators that are more international? Because I think right now I'm in South Africa, but they are there, but then they cater to the local people. Are there any ones that cater to, let's say, Africans as opposed to just the country, the citizens of a specific country?
Yes, indeed. There are countless ones. So one, we have Grand Challenges in Canada. We have Futurize. And all these ones I'm mentioning tend to have climate change at its core for those of us listening. Grand Challenges Canada is over there. The Donning Deshpande Queen's Innovation Center's Jim Leach Fellowship is also there. We also have Star Africa's Germany Africa Startup Accelerators, which is in Germany. And if you have a sustainable business, you can relocate your business from Africa to Germany, is there. We also have Orange Corners. I don't know if you've heard of Orange
I've
Corners.
heard of
They've
this,
also
yeah.
been doing so well. And then with my new friend, with a new project that we are coming up with, we also have what we call the Boma Prize for Africa. So Boma Prize for Africa, in partnership with the Barbados government, is going to run an accelerator across all 34 African countries, where if you have a climate initiative, you can partake and win about $20,000. So it's not limited to countries at all. Yes, we also have the ACIC, Africa Climate Innovation Challenge, organized by my good friend at Startup Lounge, Gaio, and 3EVs for Life in Germany. So there are a whole lot. The question also comes in, where do you source for your opportunities? Where do you look for some of these opportunities?
I was getting there because I was like, I think you would just need to go stalk your LinkedIn because I'm like, there is a lot I can learn here.
Yes, indeed. So for our listeners who may be searching for some of these opportunities, one thing that people tend to underestimate is the power of LinkedIn. Most of these opportunities are on LinkedIn.
I'm one of
I know
those.
we have some corporates on this call, but you would agree with me that LinkedIn is one of the best that you can look out for. But another thing that people tend to joke with is what we call newsletters, email newsletters. So some of these various organizations,
Yeah.
such as Yunus Germany, has been instrumental in some of my funding needs. They've been funding me silently on the background, which I don't tell people. You just need to at least subscribe to their newsletters, and sometimes you are good to go. Instagram also tend to have sponsored ads and announcing opportunities, but I would always urge people to try to subscribe to newsletters, make good use of LinkedIn, and follow Kundi and um Ke, I always find it difficult to pronounce it. Our show
Oh,
right now. Try to join
Kijani.
and you have people.
Yeah, Kijani
Kijani
Konversations.
Konversations, programs like this, and trust me, you'll be able to learn a lot.
Oh, this was so good. Oh my goodness. I wish I could just take your head and take all the knowledge and then I'll give it back later. Let's get to the to the questions. Let's see. Spiso Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see the next question. Very impactful conversation. Thank you very much, Ella. So I think it's, let me see. Amida says, can you share a time when you hit a low point and considered giving up, but instead you found a way to rise up even stronger? I don't even see you ever having a low moment, but let's hear it.
Oh, yes, indeed. Every entrepreneur has a
Mm,
low moment. Everybody. So I have counted the number of times I wanted to give up as an ecosystem builder. Trust me, it's in the double digits. Whenever things don't go well, I feel like, let me just throw in the towel. I'm sure a lot of us on this call have been facing this.
mm,
Sometimes navigating the complex African, system. So there has been multiple times where I felt like giving up. Um, some on the part of some of the clientele that we
mm,
had,
mm,
but one thing that I believe kept me going was, first of all, the God figure, right? As a believing
mm.
Christian, I always prayed to God for some good strength. And the second has always been the caliber of elders that I surrounded myself with. You said I look very young. I'm actually older, but thanks for that good compliment.
You find
But I surrounded myself
older.
with so I always surrounded myself, aside the God factor,
Mm,
I surrounded myself with elderly people. You know, the elderly, you can always learn a lot from them. They don't need to be illiterate
mm.
to give you good advice. And this has always kept me going. And we have good people on this course, some that I know who have always said, you know what, don't give up in your journey. I would have loved to mention names, but I don't want to be biased. So these are some of the ways that I've crossed some of my low points.
Someone won't sleep tonight and be like, oh, you didn't mention me. So it's good that you didn't mention names. So when you were thinking of giving up, what was the alternative? Because I look at certain people and the work that they do, for example, you, and it just looks like a calling that was tailor made for you. So what was the alternatives in the times that you were thinking of giving up?
Okay, so I come from a family where we belong in the marine industry. We deal in logistics and marine transport.
Mm,
So I always had that alternative to just go and work in the family um, business, but I didn't see the family business quite an avenue to actually impact the lives of people, right?
mm,
I found myself as someone who had always wanted to impact lives. So these were the alternatives going into the family business. There's been these situations where I had the opportunity to relocate permanently from Africa, but I had to let all these opportunities pass to tend to
mm.
focus a little bit more on Africa. So these were some of the alternatives that I had.
Ooh, this is a question I didn't even think of. But speaking of relocating, a lot of young African people are leaving the continent for greener pastures. Things are difficult in
Yes.
some situations or areas. What advice would you give to go and get knowledge there and then come back, or just to go because you everyone deserves a soft life. Considering we still need
Okay.
people on the continent to bring about change.
Yes. So I am never in a position to say that it is wrong for someone to want to leave Africa.
Mm,
Okay. But what I can say is, if you get the chance to leave, it would be nice to try your best to come back. You would realize that almost every scholarship does that, has that thing. But we have people, scholars, when they go, they don't even come back to Africa to
mm,
make impact. So my advice is, when you get the opportunity to go, try and come back to make impact. And there's that assumption that the grass is always green in the global north, which is something I've always
mm.
disagreed with. Okay, the grass might be green in the global north. The question is, for how long and for what kind of animal would the grass be green for?
Ooh.
One thing I've said is, if you want to become a lion, you need to stop eating rats. What do I mean by that? The grass may look green over there temporarily. When you get there as a student, someone who is on a student visa, what makes you think that you'll be able to earn so much money that you want? It's not true. So the grass may look green, but don't think that Africa is a place that you should give up on. No, you don't give up on Africa easily like that. And if you want to get your Rolls Royce, trust me, Africa is a place to give a shot to.
It's possible to get a Rolls Royce on the continent. There's hope
Yes,
for
we
us.
have African having Bugattis, Lamborghinis, achieving a lot. You can also make it. If you get the chance to
Mm.
also travel, try your best to come back to make impact societies.
Yeah, you just preached to me right there. Someone said, have you worked with persons with disabilities?
Yes, we've worked with countless people with disabilities, persons living with chronic conditions like diabetes, HIV. We've also had people who were, excuse me to say, speech impaired. We've had people who were crippled, having leg issues. We've had people who even had ADHD. We've had people also battling with narcissistic personality disorder, which is something that we've been handling quite a lot. So bipolars and so on and so forth. So indeed, we've worked with lots of persons living with disability. Just that one thing at KELDOC in Global Innovations is we maintain confidentiality. So you hardly see us post most of the people we help. We want you to be able to have the glory. We hardly post some of these things. Yeah.
Oh. The next question is there the possibility to have startups that can build their enterprise devoid of external financial support? Can we be independent outside of funding?
Yeah, yes, indeed, you can. That's why you realize that I mentioned that there is something called a 360 degrees revenue model. What do I mean by that? If you don't want external funding, if you don't want shareholders, take a good look at your business. There are certain things that you could monetize that you are not monetizing. It can be social media branding, it can be social media optimization, it can be motivational speaking, it can be you being a public speaker. All these small revenue streams, they are leakages that people don't pay attention to. So try your best to block them, monetize it. Another thing that I would always say is if you don't want external funding or to depend on other people, then try your best to work on your prices. Rick Ross, who is in the United States, who is in the entertainment industry, would always say on a good day, he charges maybe let's say $100,000 for a show. Simply because he charges $100,000 doesn't mean that when you offer 50,000, he wouldn't accept. This means that you should be able to review your pricing mechanisms so that you can have a higher service obtainable market. So this is something that I would always say that indeed it's possible to go far and for your startup to thrive without external funding. KELDOC has done it. You can also do it.
I think Jenny is an entrepreneur. She said, I'm stressed every day for no reason. Okay, let's see.
The question again?
No, I'm saying she just made a comment that I'm stressed every day for no reason. I'm guessing Jenny is an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this person said the heat of the sun is cooking the brain cells. So I get it. Climate change is causing the explained mood swings. And then Ella said climate change affects mental health. Yes. Impressive innovations. Citrus foods mixed with shea butter, amazing. That can solve collagen related issues. God bless Africa. That's so fascinating. Intelligent formulation. Where do you okay, Artfulness says, when do you think is the right time to bring people on board like partners and investors?
Yes. So I mentioned that when you're at the growth stage,
Mm,
where that's when I highlighted that you go for equity funding or debt financing.
at the growth stage.
Yes, at the growth stage, it's best to. It depends. What do you mean by partners? Do you mean organizational partners, collaborative partners, or founding partners? There are two types of partnerships, right?
Mm,
We have strategic. The strategic is where you partner other organizations to execute projects or to source clients from, right? Then we also have the organizational partnerships. That's the tactical ones, the long-term ones, where you bring in co-founders to partner you in your business. So these are two separate things. We have strategic partnership where if you what is Nat into? Can he just mention what he's into so that I
So
can
the
make it clear for him?
handle says Nat the plumber.
Not the plumber. So for example, if you're a plumber, a strategic partner, okay, can come in at any stage of your business, where it can be a real estate company, it can be a block production company where they outsource some of their plumbing needs or contracts to you, okay, like a MOU. Then we have um, tactical partnership, which is you bringing in co-founders to own shares in your business. For that one, I always advise that you do that at the growth stage or when you have at least a prototype and an MVP, so that you don't have a situation where you feel like, okay, I have put in all the work and you just came at the idea stage and you want 50% of my business. Yeah.
Very insightful. I'm so sad that we're actually getting to the end of this. So much knowledge. I feel like we can spend the whole day. I can spend the whole day listening to you. Have
Yeah.
you always been a good speaker? Let me say. Did it come to you naturally?
Well, yes, it came to me naturally, but as a human being, I have my flaws. I have my flaws. There have been points where I was a loose talker, but through proper guidance and counseling, I've been able to way up from that stage. So yes, it came naturally, but I identified my flaws and I worked on it. And today I'm doing good. So these days, you find me doing more of public speaking, speaking at events, as opposed to ecosystem building.
And
Yeah.
would you say it's a skill that young people that want to get into, that want to build on their solutions, would you say it's a skill that they need, or it's something they can slowly develop?
Um, so I wouldn't say it's a compulsory need, okay? Because in entrepreneurship, like I mentioned, you have co-founders or you have partners, okay? We have certain people, naturally, they cannot speak in public, and that is fine. Simply because you can't pitch, you can't speak on stage doesn't make you a bad entrepreneur. So if you can develop the skill, fine. If you can't develop it, find a partner who can, you get me, do that for you. So I want our listeners to grow out of the mindset that, oh, I need to have it all. One person can never have it all. If you can be a good public speaker, I am good at public speaking. You might not be good at it, but that doesn't make you less of an entrepreneur at all. But if you can develop the skill, give it a shot.
That is so good. So don't limit yourselves, guys. The sky is
Not a,
not even the limit. Okay, what is your big dream for Keldor Global Innovations? What's the dream? What does 5 years look like? What does in 10 years look like? What is that pinnacle of success where you'd be like, yes, we have arrived. This is it.
okay, so with Up, we are setting up a fund where we plan on raising about $10 million from our partnerships, MasterCard, Boma Africa, and so on and so forth. So in the next 5 years, I'm hoping that we can raise that $10 million so that we can make impacts across all the 34 African countries, where we can have innovation hubs in each and every African country. That is something that we hope to achieve in the next 5 years. $10 million is our target.
And I definitely see it happen. If there are no more questions, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Any parting words for our young entrepreneurs that are especially in the that are coming up with climate solutions? Any last words for them?
Yes, whatever your idea is, just start it. Starting it does not mean you should have a product, but starting it means at least you should start engaging certain people towards achieving this your climate intervention. If you like advocacy and you don't have capital or money to do it in person, start with simple free tools like Google Meet and Zoom and so on and so forth. If you are into sustainable fashion and you feel like you don't have the capital to go for machines, try to make simple products and use advocacy to champion it. Before you realize you can have an opportunity. The whole idea is just start something. Start it. Because until you start, you can never prove anything. That is one advice that I will always give to the youth.
Wow, just start. I feel like it just spoke to me because I have this perfectionist thing where I end up in a cycle of just overthinking everything. And
Yeah.
I want something to be perfect. But thank you so much for this. I feel like you are a wealth of knowledge. You're definitely a blessing to this generation. I will definitely be stalking you and everything you do. You'll probably see me and be like, this is my idea, help me. The fact that I didn't know these things existed, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've been living in a bottle. So thank you very much. And thank you to our guests that tuned in. Let me just give a shout out. Um, Enterprise Network says, great session by both. Insightful conversation. God bless you for this. Revealing to the world what Africa is made of. Africa has talent. Africa is not just the future. Africa is doing the things now. And then shout out to Amida. Thank you for joining. Shout out to Poetry. That's a very creative name for a handle. Shout out to Ansoma. Shout out to Richard. Artfunat. Amida. I think I mentioned her. Shout out to Tracy. Thank you, friend. I hope I didn't miss anyone. And those that hopped out. Shout out to Nampilo. Shout out to Senorita. Okay, there are quite a number of people. Thank you, everyone that joined. And please don't forget to vote for me on the Miss Africa page. It's missafrica.tv/vote/Zimbabwe. Next episode will be on Saturday, so please come back and tune in. Thank you very much, Kekeli, for joining. And please do follow him. He's doing great work. I was just looking at it. I'm like, how is this person doing all this? Actually, do you have time to rest? I think that's my last question. Do you have time to rest? And how do you know all
Trust
these
me, I don't.
industries?
Yes, I don't play with my rest at all. That's one thing I always do. As an
Mm.
entrepreneur, you always have to take your seriously. I do rest a lot.
Hmm.
I do rest a lot. And yeah, once you master your art,
Yeah.
you don't really need to stress. Yeah.
How long did it take you to master your art? Actually, that's the last question, I promise. How long did it take you to master
Which
your
of the as a polymath, I have different arts. So which
art?
of them?
How long did it take you for everything to like connect? I think that's the question. For everything to like make sense, considering it all these interests, how long did it take you to be like, ah, this is how everything comes together?
I would say 2 years.
Oh,
So let's say it's connected in
hmm.
1 year, and then I was able to prove that indeed what I think will work in 2 years. Yeah.
Um, thank you very much. I hope you have a blessed night. We went slightly over time, I think because of the technical
Yeah.
difficulties at the beginning. But thank you very much. I cannot wait to see the incredible things that you and Keldok are doing, and just continue impacting the continent. Thank you for coming
Indeed.
here.
Thank you
Goodbye,
very much. And thank you to
guys.
all